Hi, everybody, and welcome to, I think it's episode 37, if I'm not mistaken. And this is actually the final episode of this season. Next week, or the next time you see us, it will be an all-new show, and it will be the Gary Twining Show. And we're doing lots and lots of different things, and we hope that you'll all stick with us over the period. We're really excited about it. So, hello, Gary.
Hello, Ian. How are you? I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, mate. I'm fine. What's the matter?
Well, let's look what's really going on here. I mean, look at you. You've got a shirt on, you've got a tie on, and your background's disappeared. I mean, what's happening, Ian?
Well, Gary, I'm about to launch the £1 billion cultural challenge. And I thought, this place, Guest Safety Officer Lobby Group, was the perfect place to do it.
Okay, Ian, but £1 billion? That's
£1 billion.
But is it a billion's a bit far-fetched, isn't it? Wouldn't you think it's a bit daft?
Well, I'm sure there's lots of people will agree with you. But the point is, why not £1 billion? I mean, to be honest, £1 billion doesn't go that far these days, if you think about it. But for what we want to try and do, then it's absolutely important and vital that we are able to engage and inspire people. And they need to have a target, one that is achievable, and this is achievable, and one that at the end of it, you think, yeah, we did this. This £1 billion challenge will be the biggest single fundraising event, and we want it to be an annual event as well. £1 billion every single year. Then, do you want to see the website?
Of course, Ian, because I'd love to know how you is going to set up at 1 billion. When you think about Live Aid back in the late 80s, only produced 140 million over the whole thing.
Yeah, well, they just didn't, they were just too narrow in their perspective. And let's be honest, that was 1985, I think it was, 84, 85. And at the time, that money, I think, wouldn't be far off £1 billion now. But let's share screen. I'll show you where we are with the website at this particular moment in time. And I'll talk you through it. So the website is actually called One Piece at a Time. And the basis of that is based on how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat an elephant one piece at a time because it's such a vast amount. Otherwise, you can't fit an elephant in your mouth unless you're really big. So the idea of this is it's one piece at a time, and we're out to save and help one life at a time. The £1 billion culture challenge is all about teaching children the life skills they need for a safer future. Essentially, this is an opportunity for us to find out more about what is the Personal Preparedness Project. And Gary, I think this is really, really important when you look at what's going on around us at this moment in time. We've seen trouble on the streets, war break out in Ukraine just over a year ago. We've got war in Israel of a sort now. It's not what the most distressing thing for me there is seeing all of these children who haven't got the necessary skills to be able to actually help in a meaningful way. Actually, they weren't prepared. But have you heard? Have you heard about the National Preparedness Project?
I have. I have heard about it. It's very hidden away and stuck under the covers. But let's not talk about that. I want to know what you're going to be putting to how are you going to be teaching children these life skills? What are these life skills we're looking at?
Well, okay. Well, we're going to look at, as you can see, advanced first aid. And the whole point of this is to create a nation of zero responders. People who, when they're first on the scene. So imagine your child is choking. Do you want somebody there who can actually help them there and then, or do you want them to wait 20 to 30 minutes for the ambulance to arrive? What do you do if there's a car crash? What do you do if there's a whole host of normal things and we don't know how to deal with that? In fact, an awful lot of the time, we actually withdraw our children from these opportunities to learn basic first aid skills. Now, the plan is to teach them from the age of primary school. You start to learn basic first aid, and this follows you up through the entirety of your school life, so that by the time you reach the age of 15, 16, or maybe 17, then when you leave school, you are at a very advanced level of first aid skills. You should be at least FREC 3 or FREC 4. You can be of real value to anybody who is injured or hurt in any way, be that in a normal home environment, to an accident, an emergency in the street, to even worse, something happens and we find ourselves in 15, 20 years' time in an environment similar to Ukraine, etc., etc. Now, that's just obviously taking the worst extreme, Gary. That's what I think about the first aid.
That's a good point. I believe in Japan they already do this for children, don't they?
It is quite amusing that in actual fact, well, it's not amusing, it's unbelievable, because Japan and South Korea, because they're under constant threat from North Korea, they practice constantly. They have family days where they go out and do all sorts of preparedness, not crazy doomsday prepper, let's wait for the atomic bomb, etc., etc., but a serious national program that happens all the while. In fact, I was alerted to it when I read a post in the UK crowd management feed, when one of the where the commentator had obviously been to Korea and he'd heard the sirens go off, or not Korea, South Korea or Japan, and he'd heard the sirens go off, and they were complaining that, well, I don't know what's going on. It turned out it was a practice for an emergency. He says, but I wouldn't have known what to do. Well, mate, that's not Japan's problem, is it? That's yours. And what they're doing is looking after the citizens. So I think, and that's what really sparked it off. I then subsequently spoke to a wonderful lady at the National Emergencies Trust, very sharp, and she actually was the one who pointed out the fact that these things happen in the UK. And I've been, in security all my life, and I'd never heard of it until she told me, that's 2-3 months ago. And now, never heard of it, Gary. Had you heard of it?
No, only recently, Ian. When you aligned it to me, and I started doing research on it, and I was quite surprised that this project has been in play since, I think it's 2017, wasn't it?
So something like that. We've had people on the show who are part of the trustee board on that. And yet we didn't know about it. And I find that absolutely devastating when you think about the public safety impact that a properly coordinated and organized planning system for this could have. What a big difference what a difference it could have made during the pandemic, and didn't. Instead, people are playing around the outskirts of it. So let's just quickly move on then to the social care aspect. Well, the reason we're going to teach people social care, Gary, is that over the course of a lifetime, social care is going to get increasingly more expensive. And when we talk about social care, we're not just talking about old people. We're talking about people who may at any point in their life require some form of care, either on a temporary or permanent basis. This care costs an absolute fortune. So again, increasingly, what's going to have to happen is people are going to have to look after, pretty much like they used to before all the NHS and social care care services came into place. They're going to have to get back to the future, as it were, and start looking after their relatives and maybe dear friends, or if they're good-natured and kind-hearted, neighbors, which is what used to happen anyway. But the key is that they know what to do. And that means you've got to have some training. And again, this is part of the programme that we want to raise this £1 billion for. What do you think, Gary? I mean, you see quite a bit of it, don't you?
Well, I mean, in the environment we work in, we're doing this all the time here. Not generally to do with the elderly, but with social care, welfare of people, advanced first aid. We're doing that all the time. So it's something which is, is lacking on our side in the environment we work in. We talk about it. I think the SRA, they put their stuff out and start saying this is what we should be doing, but there's a big gap in the training on this side, regardless.
The other side of it, Gary, is there are literally tens of thousands of vacancies. I think it's approaching 100,000 vacancies in the care sector alone. So if these kids, again, trained right from the get-go, so that when they leave school, they have got a care certificate, an advanced first aid certificate, they are then prepared to go into a caring environment if need be. It means that they don't have to be unemployed. It means they can go and get a job for sure if they want one, if the current situation continues. And from that, because it's a stepping stone, it then leads to a potential career within the NHS as it is, becoming a nurse, going on, doing something. But the good news is, at least they've got a career, something with which they can earn money to begin with. So just going to move on to the social skills now. And this is the bit that I think is really important as well. It's all right doing the first two, but what we want is a rounded human being. So I haven't got a magic bullet, but the one subject that I have seen over my years in security is that spectator safety has the ability to be a bridge in terms of teaching young people the skills they need to interact, to be able to understand and empathize with people. And if you think about it, you would learn conflict management skills. You will learn customer service. You will learn about safeguarding. You will learn how to be aware of various dangers that could potentially face you whilst you're growing up. And the good news is all of this can be practiced. There's sports days and various events, and there's an opportunity with the industry, if the UK CMA and others decided to be part of it, to actually create the guest safety officers of the future. And again, there are literally tens, if not hundreds of thousands of jobs which will be available, all of which will pay money. Again, it's a stepping stone. Maybe you want to go into security. Maybe you want to go into hospitality. There's a whole host of chances and opportunities out there for anybody who wants to get involved. So that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to get. And that's what the aim of raising the £1 billion is.
Enough. It sounds like a plan. Sounds like a plan. So who's Amy?
Well, Amy is the inspiration for this. Amy is my neighbour and good friend. Her son, Tyler Thompson, was killed in a knife crime in 2015. And she wants this to be remembered as a positive moment in UK history. She thought it was going to happen because our local MP at the time did quite a bit of work to get Tyler's Law introduced. However, various things happened, and as a result, it all fell by the wayside. But Amy has never stopped, and she is a marvelous person, and she helps so many people by giving them support in their hour of need. I've actually seen her, Gary, working in a group of bereaved mothers, and she is just stunning. She is so empathetic. But Amy has got children, and she hasn't had the platform to be able to go out and do what she'd love to do. However, that was the sort of inspiration for this, alongside the fact that we don't appear to have any plan to train people for how to cope and look after themselves. And she sees this as being a good thing and a good idea, and she gave it all her support, as did several other people who for the moment will remain nameless. But yeah, people who've suffered tragedies, that range across the country and into Northern Ireland as well. So why do we need £1 billion? Well, that's literally the projected cost for the preparedness programme.
So it's £36,000 for each school. Is that right?
That's right. 9.5 million schools, children at this moment, 28,000 eligible primary and secondary schools throughout the UK. That's based on, as it says, recent government figures. It means £36,000 each to pay for suitably qualified training providers to deliver the personal preparedness program. Yeah, and it's part of it. It is possible to do it. you will get, the government actually wrote to the government and asked about this, and they said, oh, no, Ian, it's all right, we do first aid at school. Well, I can tell you now, it isn't worth a light. It's not worth a thing, because it's not given the level and depth that it needs to be of real value, because, as you know, Gary, practice in first aid in particular is absolutely essential, isn't it?
You've hit the nail on the head. It is. I mean, it's something which has got to be continuously practiced, continuously trained. But it's like anything. If you're not going to continuously train it, you know, the old saying is, you don't use it, you lose it.
You do. And schools, the thing that I found really annoying is every single school has a week where they can do, you know, basically they've got a week where they can decide what's going to be taught. And, you know, they don't include this sort of thing. But most importantly, it's left to the discretion of the headmaster or headmistress or the head, whatever you want to call them, you know, the person in charge for what they want to do. So that's why, you know, 36 grand should be enough to pay for somebody to go in and do that kind of training that covers all of those three areas, you know, in a school full time. But I know a lot of
sounds
people.
It sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, but there's nothing to stop people just because you get that £36,000 for your school. Nothing to stop you adding to that, getting more money, raising more money for your school, if that's what you want. Then I've gone bright red, haven't I?
You have, sir.
I have, yeah. It's saying, everybody, my camera is a bit dodgy at the moment, but there you go. So I'm not embarrassed. I'm just, you know, being coloured by something. Anyway, so why are we going
another point?
Sorry?
Well, just I know we're running out of time, Ian. I don't get there, but one thing I've also heard is you've written to the King.
Well, I have, but let's just quickly run through this, and then I'll
explain that.
I will explain that. I've got a form. So we're calling it that. Why are we calling it the £1 billion cultural challenge? And it's because it's all about the, you know, people and their cultural contribution. You know, that's what it's about. It's about getting creating an opportunity for everyone to show where, you know, why they're there, what their culture's all about. Because the more we know about people, as you know, the easier it is for us to get along. And that is what it's all about. We're here to integrate, to make sure that we understand each other, and that will break down barriers and it will make life easier for everyone. And is, you know, further up there was a thing, as you know and remember from our time when we spoke to Professor Simon Moore at Cardiff University, and he told us that the average cost for a stabbing, dealing with it, was £44,000. Well, I've done the figures, and for the year, that works out, if you extrapolate that across the UK, it works out at 183 million. So that's nearly out of my my £1 billion target. If we could reduce that to zero, and I know we won't, but if you could get that significantly reduced, we're well on the way to reaching the figure. So that's that. You can help bits and pieces, and it isn't hard, funnily enough, to raise £1 billion. I know that sounds silly, but it actually isn't that difficult. The question is do you have desire? And that's about what I spoke about earlier, about engaging and inspiring people. And that is what we are all, as adults, leaders of companies, here at Guest Safety Officer Lobby Group, that's what we're here to do. We are here to engage and inspire people to have and live civilized lives. So anyway, you mentioned about, what was it? What was it you mentioned? You said, oh, yes.
Your king.
I wrote to the
wrote
king.
to the king.
Well, that's perfectly normal, isn't it, Gary? You've written to the king before, haven't you?
I've never written to the king, but this is not the first time you've written to the royalty, is it, Ian?
No. As I say, I do have form, but we won't concentrate. I've gone all blotchy now. I think I've got to get myself a new camera. So anybody who wants to donate me a new camera, you feel free. But right now, I'll bring up the the letter to the king. Yes, I thought, why not? So as you can see, there it is. I sent this on, was it the 20th of October? I got my wife to post it, got a video of that, so I can prove it was her if, you know, they want to behead me or anything like that, or throw me in the tower. But yes, the whole idea, I will put that letter up. I'll give a link to that. And you can see what the idea of it generally is, as I've already outlined. But what I've done, I've asked him to be our standard bearer. Because let's be honest, Ian Fox, living as a council tenant in the lodge on Leicester, isn't going to be the bloke that inspires or attracts the necessary level of sponsorship of people for a project like this. It needs some serious players, and that's why I wrote to the king, because we need him at the very least, or at the very least, his sister, the Princess Royal, or maybe even Princess Kate. But we need somebody to be our standard bearer, somebody who's going to plant the flag and who can attract the necessary skill set to make this project work. There are so many people out there, Gary. I've spoken now to so many people who just love to help, and every single one of them says, well, if you can get someone else to join in or someone to lead it, we're in. So it can be happen. It can happen. And as I say, it's for me, given Charles's background and his history in promoting culture and cultures, I can't think of anybody better than this, really, in reality. So, yeah, hopefully he'll reply with a positive note, or at least direct us point us in the direction of someone who can actually help. So there you go. And I did have to give a mention out there to our good friend Ali Turnham, who's been on the show, because the idea of celebrating cultures was his. And that's, that's an important thing. Again, as I told him, if I'm going to wind up in the Tower of London, I want some company. So that's it. So that's what we've done, my friend.
It looks very good, Ian. I wish you every success on it. Obviously, we support you. We'll be right behind you all the way on this.
Well, everybody says they'll be behind me, and I get that, and I appreciate it, but it's like, what do? We need good people, and there are hundreds of thousands of them in this country who are doing little things, little bits each and every single day in this country to try and help us have better lives. So yeah, on this occasion, that's the best that we can do. What I'd like everyone else to do is, if you watch this to the end, then please, contact the King. Tell him you want us to, you wanted to join in. Contact the National Emergencies Trust and offer to help Very Sharp and her crew, who are doing a fantastic job. Get in touch with the national trustees and get them, write to them. There's loads of them for the National Preparedness Board, and tell them that you want them to do something positive. But that's it. All right, Gary, I've said as much as I can. Is there anything else?
Yeah, I think you've said it all today on this final season's episode. I think you put it across really well, and obviously we will support you, and we'll try and get everyone on board to support this and try and get that 1 billion for us.
Yeah, why not? We can do it. At the end of the day, we can. And I apologize, people, for going various shades of color, because that's exactly what I wanted to happen right now. Because it does it make me look silly? Yes, of course it does. But I'm not bothered about looking silly. What's really important is the message, and the message is good. All right. See you later. Bye.
Thank you, Ian.